even in times of darkness.
Just takes one.
Just one reminder
of who we are,
of why we are here.
It just takes one.
Just one reminder
that even when the days seem darkest,
even when the nights are cold
and lonely
and sad
and uncertain,
and it may feel like no one has your back,
that it just takes one.
One glimmer of hope,
one leap of faith,
one act of kindness.
It just takes one.
Just one to say enough.
One man with a dream.
One community.
one family,
one humanity.
because maybe there is just one more chance for redemption.
Just one more chance to give love.
Just one more chance to embrace another.
Just one more reminder that it's one planet.
In celebration of those few men and women who stand as beacons of light in times of darkness. In partnership with PrimeServe and Sanlam. It's the Conscious Companies Awards 2020. Please welcome your program director, the winner of the Conscious Companies Awards 2018, Adam Craker.
Welcome to the 2020 Conscious Companies Awards. Over the years, Conscious Companies has worked with leaders searching high and low for ethical business leaders, and through the awards, celebrating and recognizing conscious leadership. From the glitz and the glamour of our usual annual awards ceremony, we bring you this virtual celebration, celebrating conscious leadership at a time when we've never needed it more.
Breaking news out of Wuhan, China, of a virus outbreak. Health officials issue warnings as much as still unknown.
I think most of us have even forgotten what pre-COVID-19 world was like, given what we have to go through over the last couple of 6 months.
The life was like life has always been. There were, of course, many challenges that we had to face, especially in South Africa, given the economic situation, the political situation. But there was kind of hope, and we were looking forward to something to improve. And that was what it was. We used to get up, do our meetings, go to the office, look at all the problems, decide on the priorities, and move on and on and on.
Running around, doing important things, meetings, client meetings, business results. It was pretty much the run of the mill.
And then COVID-19 hit all of us. It was really a blow that I think nobody had ever expected as to the impact that it is going to have on our lives, both personal and professional. And especially as a business, everything changed completely just from one day to the other. And it happened at such a rapid pace that we obviously had no time to prepare ourselves to what we are facing today.
Definitely a changed world that we're living in and operating in today.
If we look at the mental health and wellness issues, the depression, the women that are now out of work.
We've got leaders who are concerned with self-aggrandizement instead of taking into consideration the very reason that they are put in leadership position in the first instance.
It's just amazing that this thing that we cannot see with the naked eye has literally put the whole world onto standstill.
As the virus spreads across the US and the world, countries are now bracing for the consequences of this pandemic.
We're in real survival mode. People are starving in township communities, yet the solutions invariably seem to be organizations collaborating together, governments starting to show a greater propensity to partner with civil society, as well as the corporate world, to bring about solutions.
I think the beauty about COVID has allowed me, and I think many others, to take the time to think, to ponder bigger questions, to think about what's really important. I think we realized, I certainly realized that coming out of COVID, there's so many things that we do and we are so busy, and are they really important? Do they really contribute?
Lots of businesses are impacted with the pandemic. Lots of people are losing jobs. We must never lose sight of being a responsible corporate citizen. We must never lose sight of being there for our people, specifically in terms of need. Our people are looking for leadership, transparency, and they're looking for organizations that have high ethics. It is at this time where we really need to lead transparently.
I think Mother Earth can't breathe. Mother Earth is telling us as human beings to slow down, to be more thoughtful, that we shouldn't be thinking that the world that we live in is infinite, that at some stage, if we don't change our behavior, she will force us to behave differently. We are all intertwined. We all kind of like live in the same world. And when things go wrong, it's going to affect all of us.
We also do not know where this world is going. The way I would put it is that there is going to be a new normal, and that new normal is still evolving. It is changing. And I think if I look at the bright side, it is a great opportunity for all of us, for every single person and individual, to be a change maker and to try and bring in that new normal which we all want. A new normal which is definitely better than the old, a new normal which is more sustainable, which is more tolerant, hopefully less unequal, and definitely more conscious.
I think that the difficulty that we've all been through over the past 5 months has really prompted an awareness within ourselves to be able to recognize individuals who have been able to almost be resilient to the challenges that the pandemic's brought about, and have thought of innovative ways in which they can still go and help society out there, and not sort of just throw their hands up and shrug their shoulders and say, look, this is something that only government needs to participate in. I think that we really wanted to identify organizations and individuals out there who, notwithstanding the challenges, were able to still see a goal or an objective in mind, and that was to help others. I think that is something that resonates very well with the Mail and Guardian.
Joining us to present the special Mail and Guardian Conscious Companies CEO Award for outstanding contribution during the COVID-19 crisis is the CEO of Mail and Guardian, Hussein Kajika, and the founder and CEO of Conscious Companies, Brenda Kari.
There are a number of companies who had made outstanding, exceptional contributions during this COVID-19 pandemic. They speak to the conscious leadership ethos.
This year, the Conscious Companies and Mail and Guardian Special Conscious Leadership Award goes to the gift of the givers.
It's not a conventional organization where I got up one morning and said, let's form an organization, put some people together, have a founding statement, a constitution, and some founding principles. It never started like that. Actually, I had no intention to form an organization. My wife and I met a spiritual teacher in Istanbul. It's a long story, but in August 91, we see the spiritual master. We see people from all religions in a Muslim holy place. And we're just surprised at the calmness and the understanding and the respect for each other. No conflict, no discord, just understanding and respect as human beings. And I said, this is not what we see in the world, And we went back home. And after pilgrimage, a few months later, it came, the desire came, and I went back. It was the 6th of August, 1992, exactly 28 years ago. A Thursday night, he finishes off, and at 10 p.m. that Thursday night, he looks me in the eye from the corner of the room, and in fluent Turkish, he says, my son, I'm not asking you. I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name in Arabic will be Waqful Waqifin. Translated, it means gift of the givers. You will serve all people of all races, of all religions, of all colors, of all classes, of all cultures, of any geographical location, and of any political affiliation. But you will serve them unconditionally. You will not expect anything in return, not even a thank you. This is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. Serve people with love, kindness, compassion, and mercy. And remember, the dignity of man is foremost. So if someone is down in the ground, don't push them down further. Hold them, elevate them, lift them. Wipe the tear of a grieving child. Caress the head of an orphan. Say words of good counsel to a widow. These things are free. They don't cost anything. Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, and provide water for the thirsty. And in anything that you do, be the best at what you do. Not because of ego, but because you're dealing with human life, human dignity, and human suffering. And then he went on to say in Arabic, Khairun nas may yanfa'un nas. Best among people are those who benefit mankind. And he said, listen carefully. I'm saying it 3 times. The emphasis is on the word mankind, not Muslim, not Arab, not Indian. It's all people unconditionally. And then finally he went on to say that remember that whatever you do is done through you and not by you. This is a spiritual thing. You need to understand that very, very clearly. And then I told you he spoke to me in fluent Turkish. I don't understand a word of Turkish, but I understood every single word that he said. And I asked him at some point, I said, how come when you speak Turkish, I understand? And anybody else here speaks Turkish, I don't understand. And he said, my son, when the hearts connect and the souls connect, the words become understandable. Then I asked him, you gave me this instruction, but what does it mean? I said, you're a doctor. I'm a doctor in private practice. So is this something I do weekends, after hours, long weekends, holidays? When do I do this? And what do I do? I mean, it's so vast. Help people in which way? Is it housing? Is it food? Is it blankets? Is it feeding schemes? What is it? He just said, you will know. One line. You will know. And immediately after I walked out of the place, within the first few weeks, the inspiration came. Respond to the civil war in Bosnia. That first intervention sort of mapped out who we will be. We were going to be disaster relief specialists. Every day you see your family, you see your children, you see you got houses, it's cold in winter, you got air cons, you got heaters, you got warm blankets, you got electric blankets, you are fine, you are not hungry. Even in lockdown, you're okay, you sort out, you're not like people who have lost their jobs. So the fact that you're in a comfortable space says, you know what, your way of giving back is to make sure to say thank you that you are not in that unfortunate situation, is to keep giving back. And that's what drives us. We can't sit still because, first of all, it's a spiritual instruction, but of course not to go extremes. Secondly, you experience your own comforts, and because of the comforts, you want to respond. And thirdly, because you know you have the capability. Because when you think of yourself on the other side, and you think, if I was on the other side, what would I expect somebody to do for me? And you expect people to come as soon as possible, especially for your children. And so many places we've been, even in lockdown, foreign nationals will call and say, you know what, we're no man's land. We're not South African. We don't have IDs. We can't run the shops. We can't go back to our own country. We can't work. We can't access support from anywhere. If not for us, what about our children? They're 2 years old and 5 years old. They're hungry. Please come and see yourself. Bring the food and just give it to them. Don't give us. We'll starve. It's fine. Give it to our children. When you hear calls like that, how can you ignore? Every day you think on rest, but every single hour there's some distress call. And because you can intervene, it's like criminals that can do nothing.
Conscious Companies and Mail and Guardian would like to express their gratitude and acknowledge organizations who have made exceptional contributions to society during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Fostering conscious leadership in current and future leaders is absolutely critical to the future of our lives, our businesses, and our planet. Ensuring that consciousness is instilled in leaders is the most critical conversation to have within a business. And I would suggest it is the most critical conversation that is required at the board level, and that of conscious leadership.
Thank you so much, firstly for having us on this very important conversation. And not only in our country, in our continent, but where we find ourselves as the world. And the role that organizations, private sector in particular, have to play in bringing a meaningful difference to society. And I guess, the notion of helping people achieve the betterment of life is a responsibility for all of us, not just for a few. So I want to use this opportunity to also call upon, many other, organizations and private sector and, far and wide, and including other sectors, to raise their level of consciousness in how they bring a meaningful difference to people's lives. And from a Sanlam perspective in particular, we always talk about this notion of doing well by doing good, I remember in the old days when this notion of when affirmative action or employment equity came into the fore, it almost felt like organizations had to choose from sustainable growth and getting equity in the workplace, getting diversity in the workplace. Whereas the truth of the matter is that diversity actually can fortify, this idea that companies can actually perform better. So in the same way, being conscious as an organization and understanding the environment and the society in which you operate can be a lever, to success, can be a lever to help you to doing well by doing good. So we talk about doing well by doing good, and that is at the epicenter of our strategy, and hopefully it permeates in everything that we do. So this belief guides us in our mission to help everyone secure their financial well-being, because we are in the financial services sector, and our role should be about using our expertise to bring that meaningful difference to people's lives. We want them to live better lives. We want them to live prosperous lives. And we want to build a promising future for generations to come. So, this is not something that sits, parallel to what we do. It is who we are. It is central to our strategy. And that's why we are involved with this incredible platform.
I've always been very concerned with the world we will leave behind for our children. I'm extremely concerned by the state of inequality in the world, by the state of the climate and the impact that climate change is having on the world. I'm distressed by the levels of poverty and inequality within South Africa, particularly, given that there was so much hope that came out of our democracy. And in order not to be negative and in order to maintain my positive approach to life, I think consciousness has given me that much more to be positive about, because one can always focus on the negative. One can always look to what is wrong. But if one becomes aware of what is the possibility that is out there, and that comes from the journey of personal consciousness, taking a moment to step back and to look at what is actually happening in the world that we live in? What is happening within the society that we are a part of? And if we can play a small, and it is a small role in changing the lives of a few of the people we come into contact with, and maybe the many that we work with, if we can uplift them, not necessarily out of poverty, but if we can uplift them from where they are to something that is better and better for all, give them greater economic opportunity, give them the ability for their own long-term sustainability, improve their ability to be part of an improved world. That comes from the personal journey of consciousness that I've been exposed to. I'm so aware of how privileged I have been and how privileged our organization is to interact with so many who lack that privilege, but who demand of us so much more to advance their cause in life. And so for me, it's been an enormously uplifting personal journey, one where every day now, the organization is not simply about what is short-termism, what is our profit motive, but rather what is it both on a business level that we can make a difference in, but on a personal level. Every person that I hopefully come into contact with, be it at work, be it outside of work, are we or am I making a difference in their lives? That's quite a humbling place to be, to know that one really does have a responsibility as a leader or as a person to simply act properly.
And I suppose it's, every individual starts their journey to consciousness within their own way. And normally there's a catalyst that would start you looking for what is the purpose, what is my purpose, what is my organization's purpose, what is the meaning of the business that we do, or what is my own self-meaning. So, these journeys do start individually. And I think, maybe throughout my career, having always worked within the corporate environment, it's a lesson that I embarked on probably in my early 30s, so that it's to see how could I become a better person? How could I look at the impact I'm making on people in my lives? Am I leaving everything better behind? And trying to take that into a leadership position. And obviously having met Brenda and knowing that there's an organization like Conscious Leadership, I think it is, or Conscious Companies, I think it's a vital message that should be shared. And to work with Brenda to ensure that message is getting out there, I think it's something that we are doing as a value added to our members, because I think it's something that is important. And I think it was Gandhi that said it would be the change that we want to see in the world. So it starts with us as an individual, but it also starts with each organization. Just as you have a society of people, not everyone is aware in society. So as businesses, you don't always have people who are necessarily looking at the impact that they're making on the world around them and what legacy are they going to leave for their children. They're really just looking at the financial return of their business. So I think you get businesses in different stages, just as you get people in different stages. But I think, again, I think people generally want to do good. But I also think that sometimes, profit does become before the good. And I think what you are starting to see, especially within the large multinationals, is that sustainability is an important piece. There is an awareness of what we do to the environment, what we do to our employees. So I think that awareness is there. I think, as in anything, some countries are ahead of others, some organizations are ahead of others, and some businesses are ahead of others. So I think it's just to try and make sure that everyone is elevated to the same type of level.
The purpose is really at the heart of everything we do in Unilever, and creating a world where we can reduce that level of inequality that Sydney was mentioning is very critical. And I think I'm personally very proud and to work for a company like Unilever, who is, in everything we do, we put the citizen at the center of our business, with the absolute obsession for reducing that level of inequality. And it's clear that by 35, probably we're going to be 10 billion population in the world, and we cannot continue to live with the same system that we've been living from a food supply point of view, from all aspects. So it's very important that the private sector drive that change, and to be able to demonstrate that you can have a system where the company continues to perform while having the purpose of and driving inequality, creating jobs, developing new food system, new models, and we can prove to everyone and to the financial community that you can perform while doing good for the communities. And I think that's very, very critical. And I'm happy to see that Unilever, who has been amongst very few companies to initiate a bit that trend, it's a trend which is growing very fast, and many big companies around the world really are joining forces now to really create that change.
We all have a responsibility to create a world worth living in. We know, there's stuck, difference between the haves and the have-nots. There's Gini coefficient, which continues, to grow. At this day and age, we should have, be at a point, if we were all as conscious as we should be, right? We all should be at a place where we're saying we can see that this world is really truly worth living in for everyone, not just for a few, not just for elite, not for a few types of people. It should be a world worth living in for everyone. And that's what it means to be a conscious leader. And that's why I think all of us, should stake claim to this responsibility.
I think, conscious leadership has various facets to it. And I think, for me, if you're a conscious leader, you have that integrity, you have that wanting to do what is right. The corporate governance is a given, because whatever your actions are, as a conscious leader, you are doing the right thing when it matters, and you're doing it at every opportunity.
I think it starts with integrity, and it's one of the key value of Unilever, one of the fourth value of Unilever, and consciousness starts with that. Is really the need that we see in the world today more than ever about the importance to do this with an absolute level of integrity, and it's not only for private sector to do it, but as well as for the government, and obviously all around us, all around the world, we see that need to really change, and we need to be a role model.
The investment in consciousness work around the people you have within your organization pays long-term dividends. It will make the difference to those that are exposed to it.
The digital revolution has allowed us to connect with people all over the world. One of the people that we are delighted to have connected with is the Chairman Emeritus of the Conscious Leadership Academy and the founder of the King Codes of Corporate Governance, Professor Mervyn King, as well as with Michael Judin, the chairman of the Conscious Leadership Academy, and one of the most networked and connected individuals who literally can connect people in a room for the first time on a level of conscious leadership, which is absolutely astonishing.
The era of corporate leaders of the 20th century into the 21st century was to focus on increasing the wealth of shareholders on the principle that the wealth would trickle down to the impoverished at the bottom. Nothing trickled down. It became treacle, it stuck at the top. And in fact exploded in 2008 with the GFC. The financial model, underpinned by the primacy of the shareholder, just exploded. So the CEO is also a director, and his mind has got to be focused on the long-term health of the company, because that's in the long-term better interests of all the stakeholders. And if he's not doing that job, he's not fulfilling his contractual obligations to the company as a manager, nor his statutory obligations to the company in terms of the Companies Act, which are good faith, care, skill, and diligence. So he is a person that is not a conscious corporate leader. In fact, he's intellectually dishonest. We can't use the same tools which we used throughout the 20th century in that toolbox. We've got to get new tools. And the tools of acting in the best interest and increasing the wealth of shareholders resulted in the 20th century being a century of unsustainable development. By the end of the 20th century, we needed 50% more earth to sustain the population that existed at the turn into the 21st century. Clearly not a sustainable way of the instrument through which business is conducted today, namely the limited liability company, because most companies are conducted through that medium. So if he or she doesn't apply those principles, he or she is failing themselves personally, but also is failing the most important person in society today is the company, because the company is at the center of the private sector, which creates employment and provides taxes so the government, if properly managed and well governed, governs the people of the country.
I believe that there's a link between consciousness and everything in your life. I think the beginning of really understanding consciousness, like so many other things in my life, to Mervyn. But of all the things that I've learned from Mervyn, one of the most important things I ever learned was when Mervyn taught me the importance of intellectual honesty. And the intersection of intellectual honesty and consciousness, of being aware of what's happening, for me has been the real journey of consciousness. It's very easy to read King 4 and to mindlessly apply the principles and mindlessly say we achieve the outcomes. I don't believe that unless you're intellectually honest and you're a conscious leader, that you can be an ethical leader and the type of leader for the world that lies ahead of us today. So I'm not sure that mindless leader should even be referred to as a leader, because I don't believe that they're a leader. What Brenda's done with conscious leadership, and I think what Mervyn's done by intellectual honesty and a mindful approach to the outcomes, is that a lot of people who didn't before now fall asleep thinking and asking themselves, am I a conscious leader? Am I intellectually honest? Some will be comfortable to fall asleep, that when they shave in the morning or do their makeup, that they're looking at a thief or a dishonest person. And for many, it will be an awakening and could lead to change. But without becoming too philosophical, even if they don't ask that question during their lifetime, I think they'll ask that question in the last few minutes before they close their eyes, unaware of the judgment to which they are going. And maybe then they'll be, without the benefit of a senior counsel, be asked the question, were you a conscious leader? Were you an ethical leader? Were you intellectually honest? And maybe in that court, good senior counsels don't help.
What the Conscious Companies Awards does is recognize people who have honestly applied their minds in the long-term interest of an organization. So I think recognition is an important thing of proper conduct. The same as there should be recognition of improper conduct by means of criminal sanctions, for example. So there should be recognition of proper conduct. And what these awards does is recognize proper conduct in the governing of organizations.
Initially, when you talk about consciousness to a leader, especially when we started conscious companies, they thought it was some esoteric pie in the sky and simply laughed at me or dismissed the idea or sneered. But over the years, leadership has decided or realized the importance of being a conscious leader and embraced it more and more.
You see, when we started on a journey of what we are doing, obviously, I personally was not aware of the conscious company movement in South Africa. So it was nice that for what we have done in this country was recognized, and BNP Paribas did win the award of Conscious Company 2019. What I saw is that this award created an aura which would not have happened before. And that kind of an aura impacted the teams that are around me. What then I saw is that at every opportunity, the staff came forward and tried to bring in ideas that are moving towards more and more consciousness. And I believe that is the journey that we have taken, and that is what then creates conscious leaders. And this is how I would think that we take one step at a time, we change one person who then changes the other, and that's how you have a butterfly effect, and hopefully you'll have many more conscious leaders and conscious people around.
When there is a communal mindset that says, let's be more conscious about our decisions and how our communal decisions are impacting upon the world around us, we do see more conscious behavior.
Consciousness is about bringing everyone along. It's about we than I. You know, it's you realizing that for us to become better leaders, for us to have a better community, we need each other and we need to pull each other along.
Conscious leadership is taking responsibility for things you see wrong in the world, wanting to make a difference, realizing that you're part of the problem, and also realizing that solutions, humans are successful because we're social animals. It's not our individual brains that make us powerful. It's the way we operate and how we learn, organize, and work together.
Invariably, as human beings, we're fallible, and very often we're fickle. So often, even the most conscious of us will slip back into old patterns, even if those patterns no longer serve us. And I also believe that it's not totally within our own role and control to necessarily develop these conscious moments, this sense of consciousness that I do think is in fact very often divinely inspired.
In a country that has seen so much corruption, fraud, destruction of shareholder value, how do we create conscious leadership capacity? How do we make leaders understand the enormous responsibility they have and the power that they have to have a great social impact on those they influence?
If those in the positions of power were conscious leaders, we would realize that we can't be doing things in a way that it doesn't benefit the rest of society.
We've lived for so many years with the Bismarck ideal that the end will justify the means. And I think that that is where a massive consciousness shift is taking place at the moment. My sense is that we're realizing that we can still fulfill our immediate needs through more conscious behavior.
There are still companies, organizations that might have values on their walls that talk about caring for people. But I think it's not always the case, once you get into these organizations. And I think it really is a personal journey that starts with each individual leader. Unfortunately, not everyone is conscious, but I think, bringing that message to the fore and helping individuals to see that there is an alternative way of leading through consciousness, I think is an important message that should be shared.
We know that where there's a collective will and coordinated action, there's hope. We have the privilege of partnering with leaders across NGOs, across the public sector, across the private sector as well. And we believe that together, we can effect the deep change that we need to bring to the fore. And we can therefore tap into the ingenuity of Africa's people to develop creative solutions to these shared sort of problems?
First was really to be part of the starting point of Conscious Company, Conscious Leadership Academy, and acknowledging the need for Unilever, but as well for many other companies across South Africa and maybe across Africa in the future, of developing that new generation of leaders which can really find their true purpose and the purpose of the need to change the world, to make the world a better place where we can all live together in a nice ecosystem and by reducing inequality.
One is certainly able to reset whatever one's current position may be. And to reset to consciousness is no longer just a play on words. It's a reality that we all need to embrace. So I think people can reset, and people certainly can be reprogrammed to not only buy into consciousness, but to become more conscious in their behavior. And if we look at the way we as leaders operate in society and within business, it's almost incumbent upon us now to embrace consciousness in everything we do. It's a business imperative. There are many businesses that will do well despite not being conscious. But if you're going to be a leader in a time of crisis or in a time of change, then consciousness is critical to your future success. It's critical to our planet's success.
You can actually come across leadership who know about consciousness, and they know about conscious leadership, and it's all in their head. It's an academic view. And there are leaders who have their heads and their hearts aligned, and they understand what consciousness is about. And these are the leaders that really get it. These are the leaders that we select as finalists for the Conscious Companies Awards, because they do get it.
A healthier society, a better educated society makes for good business sense.
Long ago, I realized that I'm far too small to have an impact to be able to change the needle, to move the needle. But together with others, communally, we can. And Conscious Companies is really all about that.
Irrespective of external circumstances, including COVID-19, companies who are driven by conscious leaders are succeeding.
Let's take a look at the 2020 Conscious Companies Awards for the NGO finalists.
Business Engage, Colleen Larson.
So it depends on what you believe is success. For me, that inner peace of knowing that I'm doing what I've been set here to do is more fulfillment to me than what financial success brings.
Cotlands, Monica Statch.
It's really being sure and knowing that every decision, every action that you have has consequences. Because at the other end, there's always a receiver of your decisions.
Tomorrow Trust, James Donald.
We all need to be more conscious of the forces that drive us as individuals, us as collectives, and our society. So I think if you look at like the Black Lives Matter movement and these suddenly these ideas sort of take root around social justice, that actually the world could and should be much better. In order for that to happen, though, we have to really be conscious about what it is that's driving us inside.
Please welcome the chairman of the judging panel, Professor Mervyn King.
The winner of the NGO category is Tomorrow Trust.
Thank you. It's fantastic. It means a lot to Tomorrow Trust to be recognized this way. I mean, since we were founded 15 years ago, the idea of bringing consciousness into our work has meant a lot to us. And I know our team and our trustees have worked incredibly hard, particularly this year during COVID, to support our beneficiaries. And it's lovely when people notice. Thank you so much to those who nominated us and the judges who chose us. It's a real honor.
Congratulations to James Donald of the Tomorrow Trust. absolutely wonderful. James, if I could share with you my own personal journey as a conscious leader and the experience that I've had since IQ Business was recognized as the winners of the Conscious Companies Awards in 2018. It really has been an amazing journey, and a journey that has opened my mind to many new ways of thinking, acting, and doing as an organization. Our purpose at IQ Business is to grow people, grow business, and grow Africa. And this year, we really had a chance to put that into action ourselves as the onslaught of the health crisis and now the much bigger economic crisis really began to unfold. And one of the things that was so clear to us was how we needed to respond to that situation. And consciousness was the critical enabler of that, in terms of understanding, as we saw, the drama that continues to unfold and the response that we have towards that. Almost without the need to think, it's actually become ingrained in the organization, in how we act on our purpose and how we measure the outcome of our actions. So all of our conscious leaders of today and to our potential conscious leaders, I really want to encourage you to continue on this journey as we embark together on really making sure that our respective businesses and our leaders have the appropriate ethics, governance, and actions of being a conscious company. So let's take a look at this year's 2020 Conscious Companies Awards finalists.
Dow Southern Africa, Cecilia van Roy.
It's not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. Whether it's being sustainable and being conscious about every single thing that we do, products, materials, solutions that we bring to the market, and how that positively impacts humanity, society, our planet. Whether it's about giving our customers an experience that is easy, effective, and enjoyable. All of these things embody this ambition that Dow has.
Letsema, Isaac Shongwe.
Sometimes we think we need all these things, only to discover that we need very little. Therefore, those of us who are fortunate and who are able to do these kind of like amazing things, I think we owe it to society. And therefore, even the name Letsema, of the name of my business, is a Sotho word for people coming together for a common purpose. And what is that common purpose? To contribute meaningfully in society. We're here for a very short period of time.
Kuna and Nagel, Svetlana Glavich.
We need to be able to look beyond the traditional ways of perhaps looking at the company and traditional ways of looking at the stakeholders that are involved and that impact a company and vice versa. So I think consciousness goes far beyond those traditional stakeholders. Consciousness includes, for example, also communities that are in close vicinity of where we are as an organization. And there's an impact that we have as a company on those communities, and again, vice versa.
Turner and Townsend, Stephen McCartney.
As an organization, we are more collaborative today than we've ever been, right? You know, and I use that. I'm an Irishman who watches Irish rugby, and we talk about shoulder to shoulder in our you know, when it comes to rugby, and I've tried to you know, that's the language that I've used when talking to my colleagues. We're in this shoulder to shoulder, you know, and you know, people thought it was a bit of marketing to begin with, but I think now genuinely staff do believe that we are in this together. We are more collaborative than we've been. We are more communicative, and actually, I'm quite optimistic as a consequence.
Nedbank Group, Mike Brown.
About 4 or 5 years ago, we worked very hard on the purpose of Nedbank, and that purpose is to use our financial expertise to do good. That's really what the purpose of a bank is. It's the place where there's an intermediation between savers and borrowers, and how you perform that role of intermediation is absolutely vital to do good in the countries where you operate.
Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, President Ntuli.
I believe consciousness starts with self. If you're a leader, you really have to look at your inner self and try to figure out what sort of a leader that you are. And I think that has been embedded in what I do, in what our organization do as well. It's really about redefining our purpose and what we stand for, which is just simply put, we just want to accelerate the ambition of people, and impact them in the way they live and work on their daily basis.
The runner-up for the Conscious Companies Award in the Business Sector 2020 is Hewlett-Packard Enterprise.
First of all, thank you so much to the Conscious Company Awards, Brenda and the team, Professor Marvin Keys. Very humbled with this, and I think as a young leader, as an international company operating in South Africa, this is the time where leadership, given all that is going on in the world, is so important.
I'm happy to announce the winner of the Conscious Companies Awards 2020 in the business sector is Letsema.
Thank you, Mr. King, to you and the panel of judges for this award. When I entered into this process, it was exciting and good enough to be considered to be worthy of being one of the leaders in our country who's done business in a way that it demonstrates that business can be a catalyst for social change. This award is an affirmation of what we've been doing at Letsema over the last 25 years. Finally is being recognized not only by us who are proud at Letsema, but by others again outside of the Letsema community. Yes, it is an award. Yes, it is a very exciting award, but this award is not only my award. This is the award for the Letsema family.
Thank you for joining us for this truly wonderful virtual celebration. Thank you in particular to all of our judges. Congratulations once again to all the nominees, finalists and winners of the Conscious Companies Awards 2020. And in the spirit of the glitz and glamour of the Conscious Companies Awards, here is the amazing Grace Magubani. From me, Adam Craker, I hope that you will join us again next year at the Conscious Companies Awards 2021.
Ich weiß es selber nicht, warum man gleich von Liebe spricht, wenn man in meiner Nähe ist, in meine Augen schaut und meine Hände küsst. Ich weiß es selber nicht, warum man von der Zauber spricht, der keiner widersteht, wenn mit sich Doch wenn das rote Licht glüht, zu Mitternacht'gen Stund, und alle lauschen meinem Lied, dann wird mir klar, der Grund. das blutet